John Darnall, Jr. I was born November the 28th, 1928. We're sitting here in the living room of Diane Darnall, my daughter's house in Fairbanks, Alaska, on Sunday, July 31st, 2005. Diane has put together a glimpse of our family tree. This is a collection of still pictures and 8mm film that we've collected through the years, and some of the family pictures have been sent to us from time to time. We hope that you will enjoy it. And the picture starts out with my grandfather, William Franklin Smith. The picture was taken in 1898 in Manila, where he's serving in the Spanish-American War. Here is the collection of the family of my grandfather and Julia Clark, his wife, and 3 of their children, Clarence, Jim, Lena, and they had a 4th child later on called Tommy. They lived in Casper, Wyoming. This picture is a picture of my grandmother's parents, the Clarks. The Clarks lived in Casper on a ranch at Bates Creek. My dad and mom was married in 1927 and lived happily, I guess, until I was born. And my mother died when I was 2 weeks old. J.C. Monk is in this next photo, which was taken in 1930, and I was about 2 years old. He adopted me, and I carried the name of Monk for 19 years till I married Helen Merwin. I changed our name. We both changed our name to Darnall. J.C. Monk worked at the Standard Refinery, and in 1938, of course, there was a depression on, and the Standard was laying off people, so they could take a bonus if they quit, and they offered a bonus to the ones that had seniority, and so he took the opportunity to take the bonus, and Standard gave him $3,500, and he got $3,500 and sold the house. With this $7,000, they moved to Denver, where they bought a bar. And my dad worked nights, and mom worked the morning shift. She made the meals. They had to serve meals within a bar, so she made the meals and did the kitchen part as well as serving the bar in the mornings. And my father, Mr. Monk, worked the evening shift, and he closed up. And naturally, there was always women in bars, and sometimes they'd take him home. And this didn't work out too well, so it ended up in a divorce. And that divorce happened, of course, during the Depression, where times were tough. And my mom would have to take whatever job she could get, usually a cooking job, because she was used to doing that. And we would work as long as the work held out, and sometimes we'd have to move. I think we moved because of the closeness to Monk. We moved back to Casper, where then she worked on the WPA, and later on went out to sheep camps, and she did the cooking for the sheep herders and the shearers, and she really could cook a mean leg of lamb. And later on, she went to work at the Air Force. So Wyoming had an Air Force base there, and she worked packing parachutes. One time she was working in a restaurant in Denver later on. We moved back and forth between Denver and Casper and various places. One time she was working as a cook in a restaurant in Denver, and I used to go there for my evening meals because that was allowed, and I would, she'd fix me roast beef sandwiches, hot roast beef sandwiches, and then I would wash her dishes for her to catch her up in the supper rush hour. We'd move back to Casper again, and we worked, managed the Isaac Walton League in Casper, and I delivered papers and set clay pigeons on weekends for the trap shooters, and made pretty good money. And they always tipped my mother well too. So she did the cooking helped with the cooking on the weekends when they fed the trap shooters. I worked also in the bowling alley. And that's where I got my first Social Security number, the only Social Security number. I was working in a bowling alley, setting lines for 3 cents a line. And that was my pin money, that and delivering papers. These were real hard times because of the Depression. And because it was hard times, we got offered every once in a while for one of our children to move in. We'd move and live with them for a while, and then it wouldn't work out, and we'd move again somewhere else. We also moved around quite a bit. One year I went to 7 different grade schools, and when I went to high school, I went to 4 different high schools. I started out in Casper, Wyoming, the freshman year, went to sophomore year in Denver, Colorado, and then I went the junior year in Oklahoma City, and the senior year in the Dalles, Oregon, where I graduated. After graduation, my mom moved back to Casper, and I moved to Denver, where I was for a while. I lived with J.C. Monk there for a while in Denver. Then I moved back to Casper. The experience I had during the tough times to get by with whatever I had available, and able to find a job anywhere, anytime, and overall made me a stronger person. Mom's first husband's name was Darnall, so that's how we all arrived at the name of Darnall. The thing about my grandmother and my mother was that she took me on after she had already raised 4 children of her own. Bob, Ralph, Ruth, and my father, Johnny. So when you stopped and consider this, how many other people would want to take on a chore of another baby after raising a family? Edna lived until she's seen my first 3 children born, and what a love she was.
So say that again for me.
Well, I think it'd be good to have that late moment right there.
When I ended up, my father was my brother, and we had a song out in those days, say, "I'm my own grandpa." I met Helen in 1945. After a whirlwind courtship, we got married in 1946 on April the 10th. The wedding entourage was Jack Tobin, her mother, Loretta Merwin, Helen, myself, Edna Monk, and my dad showed up for this wedding. A strange thing. I don't see him for a long time, and he did come to my wedding. He was located at that time in Oregon, and he had a family by another woman after my mother died. Her name was Mabel, and they had 3 children, Marilyn, Janae, and Billy. And I have met all of them and talked to all of them, and actually lived with them for a little short time. This is Helen's family, Lee Merwin and Loretta Merwin. This is a picture of Lee and Merwin, who was an engineer on the Burlington Railroad, and Helen and her mother. They often, once in a while, would take a trip with him, I think. He would take the train one way uh, and then come back the next day out of Cass. Lee and Loretta also had three other children. A girl that was born before Helen did, and Helen and Robert, who died at age 18, and Frank, who became a pharmacist. And our family started with Jack. What a love. Look at his smile. Anybody would love that. He was born, again, January 27th, 1950. Grandma Monk and Grandma Merwin always came to Christmas dinner. Along with Jack's first Christmas, Helen bought me a 8mm camera. And obviously we didn't know how to run it, as you'll see. I never seen Grandma Murr smash potatoes so fast in my life. In 1952. And here we have a picture of Frank and Margaret Merwin coming to Diane's baptism, bringing along with them their two children, Kathy and Lee. In 1952, we took a trip to Thermopolis, and we took Jack along. But just take a look at these gas prices. We left Diane with Grandma Merwin when we took Jack to Thermopolis. We thought she was a little bit too young to go swimming. But just look at her, how serious she is and how playful she is and what a cute child she is. Oftentimes we'd gather up a picnic basket and go to Casper Mountain for a picnic. Snow didn't stop us.
Right and be strong and may stay forever young.
Julie enters the world June 3rd, 1954. And Julie's godparents on her baptism was Julie Cassis and Joe Minahan.
Celebrate your life today. Great
to celebrate. Every morning there's reason to feel blessed, 'cause just for you God has set aside the best. You can do whatever you dream of. All you need to do is love yourself.
These are some of the latest snapshots in Casper before we moved to Denver.
May you grow up to be righteous. May you grow up to be true. May you always know the truth and see the light surrounding you. May you always be courageous. Stand upright and be strong. May you stay forever
May your hands always be busy. May your feet always be swift. May you have a strong foundation when the winds of change shift. May your heart always be joyful. May your song always be sung. And may you stay forever young.
What happened was I was working for Metropolitan Life, and I won a trip to Louisiana, to the President's Club. So I also at the same time received a transfer to Denver as an assistant manager. So we moved to Denver as assistant manager, and then the President's Club came up shortly after we moved, and we took a trip to New Orleans, Louisiana, and then we went on to complete our trip going to Florida, taking a fishing excursion, circling back around, going up the coast and through Kentucky and back to Denver. Well, as with Metropolitan Life, I had to go back for further training, and while I was there, Helen came one time and we had a tour of Statue of Liberty, and Helen went to the game shows during the day when I was working.
You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
5 years after Dewey, here came another little surprise. On May the 6th, 1959, we were blessed with Dina.
We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Everyone can see we're together as we walk on by, and we fly just like birds of a feather. I won't tell no lie. All of the people around us, they say, can they be that close? Just let me state for the record, we're giving love in a family dose. We are family. Hey, I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Sing it to me. We are family. I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Living life is fun, and we've just begun to get our share of this world's delight. High hopes we have for the future and our goals in sight. We know we don't get depressed. Here's what we call our golden rule. Have faith in you and the things you do. You won't go wrong. Oh no, this is our family jewel. We are family. Sing it to me. I got all my sisters with me. Sing it to me. We are family. I can hear you, guys. Get up, everybody, and sing. We have faith in you and the things you do. Hey, hey, I got all my sisters with me. We are family. Get up, y'all. Get up, everybody, and sing. Hey, hey, we are family. I got my sisters with me. I got all my sisters with me. Everybody, hey, hey, we are family. Y'all, hey, hey, get up, everybody, and sing.
After a bout with metropolitan life, we moved to Loveland, Colorado, and purchased a motel. What a disaster. The children were all small. Diane is about 8 years old, and she works like a hired hand. She did the mangling of the sheets, she cleaned the rooms, she watched the desk, she watched the children, took care of Dina, and literally did two people's work, and only 8 years old. Amazing. Willa Jo preparing Diane for her first communion. Julie was her angel. Loveland was a disaster, but we were lucky enough to sell out, and we moved back to Casper. Dina loved to dance, and here she is dancing with American Bandstand.
You make me feel like dancing. I'm gonna dance the night away. You make me feel like dancing. I feel like dancing, dancing, dance the night away. I feel like dancing, dancing. Quarter to 4 in the morning. I ain't feeling tired, no, 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 no.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down a road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant. I'm not ashamed to say, I hope it always will stay this way. My hat is off, won't you stand up and take a bow?
We often went fishing with Marie and Norman Bunny and their family of Kathy and Karen. A lot of times we went on Easter. We had excellent luck.
And the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. 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 If it's a car you lack, I'd surely buy you a Cadillac. Whatever you need, any time of the day or night. I'm not ashamed to say,
Oftentimes when the hunting season would start in September, we'd take the children out of school for a week or two and we'd go hunting. And there's Diane driving the Jeep. She was only 11 years old, but she was a good driver even then.
have no fear, even though it's hard to hear. I will stand real close and say thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Let me tell you about a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. And then we die and float away into the night. The milk.
All the children registered for shoes at a store one day, and Jack ended up winning a puppy. This puppy was called Willa Jo.
I'll say your name. Then once again, thank you for being a. Thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you. Thank you for being a friend. I wanna thank you.
We spent a lot of time out at Alcova Lake, fishing, swimming, boating, and skiing. First skier is me, the second skier is Helen, third skier is Frank Merwin, Helen's brother.
Thank you for being a friend.
When we returned to Casper from Loveland, I got into the real estate business and eventually owned Mile High Realty. We moved around a little bit when I was in the real estate business. If a good deal came up, I sold the house and we moved to a new one. So this was part of our gypsy life. Dina married Fred Yonke, and they had a baby named Lena. And Lena was named after my mother, Lena Darnall. April 11th, 1983, Diane presented us with a big surprise. She had twins, Greg and Jeff Darnall Aldridge. And we paid a visit to Fairbanks and took care of them for a little while. Helped them. In 1984, Diane and the boys visited us from Fairbanks, Alaska. And here we are swimming in the pool in Arkansas. Whole family, like and Diane, took a trip to Switzerland and met Mohinder and Julie, and we went up to the Matterhorn, and this picture was taken at the Matterhorn. While we were in Switzerland, we had a Christmas, and guess who played Santa Claus? Can you guess? It was Jack. Father Christmas is playing Santa Claus to Julie and Mohinder's children, Jasmine and Manjeet, and Dina's Lena Bell. Here are a few pictures of our grandchildren growing up. Here's Grandma and Grandpa with Julie's stepson, Preet. Grandma's holding Jasmine, who's very young at this point, and Lena Bell in the middle, Jeff on the left, and Greg on the right, with Manjeet in the middle. Here's a picture of Manjeet and Jasmine taken with their car in Thailand, Chiang Mai, Thailand. Helen and I flew to Fairbanks, where we watched Jeff and Greg's first communion. Helen and I flew then to Juneau, where Dina and Lena lives. Here's a picture of our basketball team. We was involved in Senior Olympics. We went to Syracuse, New York, to play in the Nationals. Helen went on to be entered in the Senior National Hall of Fame, which is being held now in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Helen passed away April 10th, 1994, on our 46th anniversary. After the funeral, she was buried in Casper, Wyoming, and after the funeral, the children and I went to Thermopolis, where we spent a few days together. You probably recognize all these people, but the first lad here on the left is Joy, and that's Barbara's son, who is married to Jack. The next one is Jasmine, Manjeet, Jus, Lena Bell, Darnall, Jeff, Aldridge, and Greg Aldridge. These following pictures were taken at Dina's wedding when she married George Brereton in Juneau. I met this little lady here, Donna, and we were married in March 11th of 1995. That was 10 years ago.
Say that again now.
We have no children together, but we have 9 altogether and 16 grandchildren.
And 3 great-grandchildren.
Grandchildren. This is Greg, Diane's son, who has been wrestling for Lathrop High School in Fairbanks, Alaska. Okay, we still continue to get together as a family group, Kauai, with Donna, and Diane, and Jeff, and George, and Dina, and Jack, and who? Lena. We played a lot of cards and ultimate frisbee on the beach, and had really a blast. Here's Dina preparing for Lena's graduation from high school. She was the first grandchild to graduate from high school. Also attending were Diane and Greg. Donna and I sold the farm, and for the last 5 years we've been full-time RVing. We spend the summers, summers in Logan, New Mexico, and traveling, and our winters in Quartzsite, Arizona, where we enjoy flower hunting and gold panning and metal detecting and just generally having a good time. This is a picture of Jeff doing a Shakespearean act. This is Dina and Lena doing a backpack in Alaska for an afternoon outing. Overnighting. With a tent and mosquito netting, to say the least. We had about given up on Jack when, lo and behold, on the internet he found the love of his life. He's really in love. He's been married now for 3 years to Roselle, who's from the Philippines. Of Jeff in May 2005. The next picture is Greg's graduation from college in 2005. Well, there you have it. We've put together the tapes with what we had to work with. And it's kind of interesting to know that my 4 children are all different. Each one has their own individuality. Each one went their own way. Each one is lovely. Each one has been loved. Jack, he went his way and he chose not to go to college, and he made a great living doing what he wanted to do. And Julie, the dreamer, she's a world traveler. She's gone everywhere, done everything. Lots of countries, lots of languages, gets by anywhere she is, and is living the rich and famous life she always dreamed of. Diane, she's doing her thing, She went to college and she learned things, and now she's using them. And for Dina, she did her thing. She wanted to be a nurse. She is a nurse. Now she's a nurse practitioner. Raised Lena all by herself. And now she's dedicated to keeping our family together. She sees that everyone is checked in and called on, and she goes when they need her. So everyone has filled their parts. Now it's up to you to take this any further if you want to with your families, and just add to it or make your own, whatever you want to do. But we've had fun, and thanks a lot for watching us. Did I lick my lips? I surely didn't do it that time.
Ohio City.
Okay, here we go.
Iowa City, not Ohio.
Oh, Ohio. Iowa. I don't listen, I just talk.
You're not dozing over there, are you?
I'm thinking, okay?
Well, yeah, but if you think too long, you
I go to sleep. Wake me up when I get the thoughts right, will you?
I think you ought to just
Yeah.
start, and then we can retape. And you
Get my lip first.
You want some lip stuff?
it doesn't seem to really matter.
I could, no, it don't matter. It's a habit.
You always have a good flavor on that because he's always wanting to lick it.
Lips are always dry, and if I have something on, then I want to lick stuff off. So it doesn't make any difference. Yeah, if the words are there, you can get them, huh?
That's right. There you go. So, are you ready?
No, I'm not ready. Lick my lips.
Get the lips licked.
Oh, wow.
Get ready. It's
That
not
was-
fun making this, don't you
Yeah,
think?
starting all over again now, huh?
You can.
Yeah.
Start wherever you want to start.
Start at the beginning. Good time to start at the beginning.
The whole thing. The one we spent
Yeah,
all of yesterday
all of it,
on?
all of it.